Hey everyone, this is Natasha reminding you all that small podcasts live or die by their listeners, and you guys have kept Unspoiled alive. I would appreciate it if you would pass on that goodwill and generosity to our sponsor, the War for the Tower podcast. It's a Dark Tower RPG live action actual play podcast set in the world of Stephen King's Dark Tower. And they seek to fix some of the problems in the original story, which if you've read the books, you know there are plenty of those. You can check them out at warforthetower.com, or you can just search War for the Tower on your podcatcher. Long days and pleasant nights.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 7, Episode 8, Cold War. In this episode, it's kind of like Alien, except it's just this really angry dude who thinks that he's the last surviving member of his whole race. He's really just unreasonable. He's an unreasonable man. And I don't like his ugly face, and I hope we never see him or any of his people again. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie.
All right, Jamie, lay it on me. I always am interested to hear what you thought of an episode the first time you watched it, or how you think of it coming back to it after all this time. So, what's your relationship to this episode?
Honestly, I don't know that I saw this when it aired somehow.
Okay.
Because I had no recollection of it. I must have watched it because I was watching this show every week at this point, but I don't remember it. So when I rewatched it recently, it kind of felt like the first time.
Okay.
I thought it was all right. When I rewatched it today, I liked it a bit more.
Okay.
I'm always here for Sir Davos Seaworth.
Yeah, there's a lot of famous faces this episode.
Yeah. I don't think when I originally saw this, if I originally saw this, that Davos was... I don't think that this aired by the time Season 2 of Game of Thrones was going, so I don't know that I knew Liam Cunningham.
Okay.
But I definitely knew Tobias Menzies because I had watched Rome previous to him being on any Game of Thrones or Outlander or any of that stuff. So he was so memorable from Rome, I've never forgotten his face. Mm-hmm. I just don't really remember watching this episode. So if I did, it must have bored me at the time. I do like it though. Like these last couple times watching it, I like it. The more I watch it, the more I like it. I
feel so sad because Rome got commissioned for Spoil Me a while back, and I only got to cover like 2 or 3 episodes, and then nobody ever commissioned any more of it. And I really enjoyed the first couple of episodes, you know?
The show is really good.
Yeah, it's like, it's really a bit rape heavy, but it's not in a very graphic way. So it didn't feel as sort of lurid and like voyeuristic as it can, depending on how it's done.
So many Game of Thrones people on that show.
Yeah, huge, like, just pick up and drop half the cast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I like the tension of this episode with the fact that it feels like very claustrophobic. And I do like the being stalked by a monster like we're, in Alien. So in that respect, I really I liked the direction this was going in, and it was one of those episodes that, to me, would have been better if the Doctor wasn't in it. Like, I feel that his arrival kind of, pulled the fun out of it and turned it more into, this the thing with the Doctor is I am not as interested in the trying to, like, understand and reason with somebody who is out here just trying to kill everybody. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, like, the point is that because somebody wasn't open to doing that or wasn't listening to the Doctor's advice, that was what, like, got us into the position that we did with him seeing us all as the enemy, because he was treated as an enemy out of the gate. Mm-hmm. But the man came out of the ice and grabbed somebody by the throat, and that was the first thing that he did. And I'm not really that mad at everybody deciding to treat him like a bad guy when he's out here attacking people. And as far as we know, that dude's dead. We never see anything about that, I want to mention, because I kept waiting for his body to be found. And he's just, that's the cold open, is this guy getting gripped up by something that comes out of the ice. And then we move on, and nothing is ever mentioned about that dude again. But the show kept trying to behave as if the humans were the, like, initial aggressors, and that he wouldn't have behaved this way if it weren't for the fact that, what's his face? I can't remember his name. Strybach? Stranheim? Stepashin. If he hadn't done a thing, then this guy would have been perfectly willing to, like, no, evidently not. He murdered someone immediately.
It's a good point. I'm guessing that because any interactions we have with this Martian, we're mostly having after the Doctor recognizes him. Mm-hmm. The Doctor doesn't know that he was the first aggressor, so he's treating it as if the humans were the first ones, because as soon as they saw it, they shot at it.
Right.
But you're right, before he even walks up to that part of the sub, he's already potentially killed someone.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I mean when I say that I'm not as interested, is that the Doctor tends to be played this way, where he's the one that's, like, encouraging communication rather than just, like, straight up reaction. Mm-hmm. But they frequently put him in the position of operating without full information and still having this, like, sort of, what's the word?
There's good people on both sides?
Well, I was just going to say just straight up arrogance, where he comes in and he behaves as if he knows better than everybody else here, when he, like, the data shows he does not know better than anyone else here. He recognizes who this being is, but that's all that he's got, really, in terms of, like, the effect that he's had or what he's done so far. And having history on who the people are and who this person in particular isn't actually that relevant here. It doesn't really change anything about how the like, in my opinion, deciding that we're just going to kill this fucking creature wouldn't have been a terrible approach. I wouldn't have been mad about it. And I would have been interested in just seeing this progress without him interfering at all, and just seeing how the humans handle this, like, bonkers being that can apparently, like, escape chained up, like, armor somehow, mm-hmm. and then also summon that armor to them again eventually. Like, that just sounds like a good action movie.
Well, they all would have died.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a good action movie. What do you think happens in Alien? Literally one person gets out. Great movie.
It's a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I only saw that movie for the first time like 7 years ago, and my mind was blown by it.
Wait, you hadn't seen it before?
I hadn't. I'd seen Aliens, the second one.
Which is also good. But
yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's fun. But I'd never seen the first one. And then there was like there was a box set, the Blu-ray box set of the first 3 movies was super cheap, like $20 or something. And I was like, oh, I'm going to buy that because it's Alien. I should probably see these movies. And so Jason and I sat down and watched Alien one night, and I was like, holy shit, this movie is absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's
hands down, one of the best movies I've ever seen, ever.
It's one of those that, like, when I found, like, because, Sigourney Weaver, I mean, good God.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, like, Owen's biggest crush as a teen was Sigourney Weaver.
Isn't it still?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it stayed with him, but that was, like, one of the initial... And that really, for me, like, when I began to get to know him, that was, like, one of the biggest signs to me that I was on the right track dating this guy. Because that's a respectable fucking crush,
Yeah, and some people have a crush on her because of Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah, but he had never seen that.
Weird.
I know. We just watched that, like, 2 years ago, and he was like, well, that sucked. And I just, like, almost died. He really didn't like it.
Oh, my God. That's very disappointing to hear. I love Ghostbusters. Maybe he should have seen it when he was younger. I probably watched it a few years ago. It's problematic, but I still love it.
It's like, there's parts
of it that are funny. But I've loved it since I was a kid.
It's just one of those that people, like, hold up as this amazing classic, and I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I get liking it, but I don't feel like it holds up the way that a lot of classics hold up.
It doesn't. I find it to be very fun. And Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's not a perfect movie. I think if you see it when you're a younger child, it holds a bit of nostalgia for you.
Yeah, and it's mostly like I react this way because there was such an uproar when they decided to make the female Ghostbusters, as people decided to call it. Because it was a remake of, like, a great movie, and I was like, it really isn't that great a movie, guys. It's fine. Let them remake it.
It's also not a remake, but whatever.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And also, my girlfriend, Kate McKinnon, could go toe-to-toe with any of those men. Because she's amazing.
Yeah, and it's so weird to, like, rewatch it and realize that, like, there is absolutely nothing in the script that indicates that Sigourney Weaver's character and Bill Murray's character should get together at the end, beyond the fact that he wants to fuck and he was a hero for a second. So I guess now he just gets to at the end.
But she's so sexy in that movie that I think a lot of young men, young boys, it was like a spark for them.
Oh, sure, yeah.
In a way that the fact that Owen's Sigourney thing comes from Alien is even cooler. Because she's not overtly sexy in that movie. Mm-hmm. She's incredible. And a badass. But not sexy. Not for traditional sexy reasons.
Right, yeah.
So that's really cool that
his reasons.
The male gaze sexy reasons.
Right.
That just makes Owen a better person for being like, yeah, Sigourney Weaver's like top notch because of Alien, not because of Ghostbusters, not because of Galaxy Quest, which, I mean, I hope he's watched because she's really hot in it.
I don't know if he has. I know I haven't seen Galaxy Quest.
God, you guys need to watch Galaxy Quest. I mean, I'll die on this hill. You need to watch that movie. It's one of the funniest movies ever.
We'll have to put that on our list coming up because we do run into like spots where I'm like, I know that I've been told 6 movies I need to see, and we're sitting here ready to watch a movie, and I'm coming up completely blank on what I should watch right now.
I know I've told you guys to watch it, and I have almost bought the DVD for you a number of times, so you'd probably be expecting that because it has to be done. Anyway, were you asking me the name of Tobias Menzies' character or the Martian?
Tobias Menzies' character.
Okay, yeah, that's Stepashin.
Because what's his name?
Martian
is
Stepashin.
No, the Martian.
Oh, Skaldak.
That's funny.
Yeah, and Davos is Zhukov.
Okay, so the thing with the TARDIS, and it's translating.
Yeah.
What's up with this? Because we just were like, oh, it's not translating.
It wasn't translating for Clara.
And now it is, because she's apparently speaking Russian.
Yeah.
What happened?
So maybe the TARDIS didn't like her and has decided it likes her. I don't know. Somebody did post a video. I just saw it, so I'm sorry that I haven't watched it because I just saw it. There's a mini-sode focusing on Clara's relationship with the TARDIS. So I'll have to watch that because I'm guessing that maybe fills in some gaps.
Okay.
But I literally, somebody else posted something about specific. Kat Slater actually posted something about how big the submarine is, because she says ice warriors are 7 feet tall.
Ooh.
This character, the Skaldak. These creatures have been in previous Doctor Who episodes, apparently.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because the way that he reacts, it just feels like this is a familiar thing. So
Kat's comment was, how fucking big is the submarine? Ice warriors are 7 feet tall, should be scraping the ceiling with every step. But not only does it have headroom, it can crawl across the ceiling without anyone noticing it and pull people up into crawl spaces completely out of shot.
Yeah.
So then somebody else, let's see, Chris Goodnight posted that the type of submarine this is, which is an Ohio-class Trident. Submarines are almost 2 football fields long, 7 stories tall from keel to sail, and wide as a 3-lane highway.
Where's a sail on a submarine? I'm sure that's just like a term, and it's not like sail as I know it, but I just want to know what it is.
Actually, that's a U.S. type of sub. But then Nick Hall posted, the Typhoon class submarines are the biggest ever put to sea. Not that they are super spacious, but they certainly have multiple floors or decks, as we call them in the Navy. Above your head are spaces for piping, wires, ventilation, etc. Not as much as is shown in the episode, but you can squeeze in there if needed. So this type of submarine is actually extremely big.
Okay, cool.
I've been on a submarine in Philadelphia. There's one that's parked, I believe it's in the Delaware River.
Mm.
It was right across the street from the hotel we were staying in, and it's I think it was a World War II sub. It might have been Korean War sub, but you can take a tour of it. And it was incredibly claustrophobic.
Yeah,
because I'm not a tall person.
That shit so much.
Yeah, all I could think about was that one of my best friends, when he was in the Navy, he was a submarine seaman, and he did his 4 years and then got out of the Navy, and part of it was because he could not stand being on a sub. He's over 6 feet tall, and he was like, I hated it. It was tight quarters. You're underwater for an extensive amount of time. He just really, really disliked it.
Yeah, it was the kind of thing that as soon as I stepped in there, I was like, I couldn't even be in here for half an hour. Never mind trying to stay in here for weeks at a time. Just kill me.
Yeah, I would never volunteer if I were somebody that volunteered for the Navy to be part of a submarine crew. And actually, I think Darnell told me that women, at least when he was in the Navy, women couldn't be part of the sub crew.
Why?
Probably for their own safety.
Oh, because men are trash.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I'm guessing. But he said his squadron or whatever they're called did not have any women on their subs.
Man, gotta just ruin shit. I wouldn't want to be on there, but some woman probably does. Whatever. Yeah. I'm not getting into it now because it just makes me angry and depressed. So we start off this episode with the hilarity of a bunch of incredibly British Brit men apparently being Russian. It is just it just did not stop being funny. I kind of thought that it would because of the whole the TARDIS is translating it and being a pretty decent explanation for the whole thing, but I couldn't help it. The dude in the fucking bottom deck that's defrosting this guy, and he's like, well, right, let's see what you got in there. And I'm just like, are we serious? You guys couldn't find somebody who could fucking at least fake a Russian accent for the side characters?
I understand casting really great actors in these roles. You just can't go wrong with Liam Cunningham. Mm-hmm. You can't. And And even Tobias Menzies, who I swear to God will never be able to play a good guy in his life.
Yeah, he's always a fucking, like, Edmure Tully is as close to a good guy. And
Edmure sucks.
He sucks so much. I was waiting for somebody to tell this motherfucker to go sit down in this episode, right? Because that's just what you want.
But they're both, like, really great actors. And so I get it. But, like, everybody else just looks so British. Just without even speaking. Mm-hmm. They just look like Brits. And it reminds me of, like, when I first moved to LA and I worked in a coffee shop and I walked outside to bring this guy his coffee. And he was like, you're Russian girl, yes? And I was like, yeah. Like, there's, like, half of my lineage is Russian. And he's like, I can tell, you look Russian. And I think about that with every actual, like, Russian I see, where I'm like, oh, there's a look to being Eastern European that is very different from being British. And they didn't even try to, like, cast for the look of a Russian.
Or have them do an accent, which, granted, isn't foolproof. I mean, people can be bad at that, and you don't want to do it. But there's no attempt made at all, and I just found that really funny. Especially, like, if we're going to be casting famous actors, then, okay, sure, you don't want to bother if everybody knows who they are anyway. We're not fooling anyone. But you got some side dudes that die within the first 2 seconds we see them. Just get somebody who could do it. It's fine, you know? Like...
have you seen that movie with Jude Law and Ed Harris that is supposed to be a German soldier and a Russian soldier? I think it's called Behind Enemy Lines. Not positive. But they're, like, Ed Harris is American and Jude Law is British. So one of them plays a Russian, one of them plays a German. All the Germans, I think Ed Harris was the Russian. So all of the Russians had American accents, and all of the Germans had British accents.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, what are you guys doing here?
Like, it's a fucking, like, I'm assuming big budget, major motion picture.
Very
like,
big budget movie.
What are you doing? You have the resources, guys. Just cast the people.
Like, you want Ed Harris in your movie? Make that motherfucker learn how to speak with a Russian accent. Mm-hmm. He can speak English. Okay, we'll make the concession. But try a Russian accent. He's Ed Harris. I bet he could do it.
Meanwhile, Ed Harris is standing in the background shaking his head really quickly. No, I can't. I really can't. I swear.
I just thought, like, it took me out of the movie, and it's actually a really good movie, but it took me out of the movie because I'm like, so we're supposed to believe that everybody with an American accent is Russian and everybody with a British accent is German, and we're okay with that because they're all just doing these accents instead? It was a weird choice.
I just, like, okay. So we see them, they're about to, like, launch the nuclear missiles, and then this dude... a.k.a. Bob Cratchit, comes wandering out, listening to Hungry Like the Wolf.
Wait, is he Bob Cratchit in one of the Christmas Carol movies?
Yeah, and the one that I
your favorite one?
Yeah.
Okay. I knew he must be somebody, but I couldn't place him of anything I've seen.
He's also the bad manservant in Titanic, who helps...
No!
Yeah, Billy.
Is he?
Mm-hmm.
Ah! I can't believe I didn't recognize him from Titanic. Yeah. Everyone knows I will watch Titanic every time it's on. Oh my God. He's so joyous in this. He's so lovable.
He's great as Bob Cratchit, as a, like, lighthearted, like, good-souled... And so when I saw him for the first time in anything else was seeing him in Titanic after knowing him as Bob Cratchit. And I was like, why is Bob Cratchit being so mean? He's chaining him to the radiator. But yeah...
Wow, he's a very good actor.
So
I love his obsession with, like, Western, like, new wave music. It's such a charming little character detail.
I need to know. Did they split up? That's a good one.
Ultravox, of all things.
But yeah, so he comes wandering out and is just like, oh, did I interrupt something? And they're like, forget it. We're going to abandon the exercise. And I was like, but why? He didn't do anything. He just wandered out here. You guys can keep moving along as if he isn't here. It felt like we're just going to pretend we can't do it with you here because we're trying to shame you. But it doesn't actually have a material effect on what you're doing.
I get why you think that. I don't think it had anything to do with him, but there's no explanation of why they were abandoning their drill.
Yeah. Whatever
this drill was supposed to be, which is probably just like being prepared for nuclear attack.
So at this point he says something about the thing that we got up out of the ice, and what's his face is like, so is it a mammoth? And he says very like cagily, probably. And then we go look at it, and this thing isn't anywhere remotely the size it would be if it were a mammoth.
Maybe a small mammoth.
It's not even close, Jamie.
If it's a baby mammoth.
If it was maybe the bones of like a mammoth that died like in utero. You can see the shadow of the object inside the ice. It is not even close. And
it's like if they dug Captain America out of the ice and Howard Stark was like, is it a mammoth?
Is it a mammoth? Well, maybe. No,
it's
maybe.
Muscular.
No, not even a little bit, maybe. Look at it. Like, yes, he's bigger than a regular person, but only by a foot or so. And you can see that.
And this dude's like, I'm going to melt this ice with this blowtorch.
Yeah, that won't damage our incredibly rare find if I accidentally get the blowtorch and boiling, like, steam water a little too close.
Also, why are you using a blowtorch on a sub? Come on.
Look,
you're in a nuclear sub.
Most of this whole thing doesn't add up. I also don't see that the whole thing. Who is Ann Campbell? I just got a call on my phone. Do you have it like more often than not turning up like names now? Even though they're not in your phone?
No.
I'm having that happen more and more often. I don't know where that's coming from. But that's not like
weird because mine only shows names if I've programmed names.
Yeah, and that's what mine used to be like. And now it'll be like this was Ann Campbell, that is nobody. I don't know an Ann Campbell. And it'll say things like Hartford, Connecticut, possible spam.
I get those.
Possible spam.
I get ones that say
then just
spam
don't do
risk.
it. Just don't send it to me. You know.
Is your number a Connecticut number?
Yes.
Still? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of them from LA that say spam risk, and I'm like, yeah, I don't live in LA.
I get so many for Connecticut. I get a lot from like Albuquerque. Anyway, nobody cares. But all of this to say that the idea that this professor thought this was a mammoth it gave me pause because I thought he might be dirty. I thought there was no possible way this man thought this was a mammoth, and he was so weird about it when he was asked.
I think he didn't think it was a mammoth. I think he's not on this ship because he's a crew member. He's on this this sub to do
so he
this
calls
kind
it a
of thing.
boat later, so you're fine.
What?
He calls it a boat later, so you're fine. Go ahead and call it a ship.
I think he's there because the Kremlin has assigned him to look for things. And so he thinks he found something because they're supposed to be bringing it back to the Kremlin. And so maybe he doesn't want, maybe Kremlin is wrong. It just says Moscow, but whatever. Maybe he doesn't want these military people to know what he really thinks it might be. I don't think he thought it was a Martian.
No, I just initially I thought it was sinister,
Yeah.
And gradually I'm like, okay, he just doesn't know anything. But I thought for a second that
too.
Oh yeah, he's I thought like Alien, how they're in the later movies they know that this thing is like a fucking menace that murders, and that is what they like it about it. That's what they want it for. And so they keep putting people at risk because they want to get their hands on this, like, bonkers weapon that they think they can make out of it. So I was like, oh, is this guy, like, working with somebody and he's got this whole thing that he's, you know, secretly on a mission for, but he's making it seem like he's just this professor, whatever, no big deal. I'm just here to study stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, so dude blowtorches the thing, a hand comes out, grabs him, and he apparently is murdered, but we don't ever see him again. And then when we cut back to the, like, from the credits, apparently it seems like the implication here is that this thing waking up caused the crash. Is that right?
I'm not sure about the mechanics of this boat.
Because I couldn't understand how that would even work. He doesn't seem to have, like, damaged the ship in any way.
No. I don't know if... It says the hull has been breached, and the crew members are being attacked by a green armored figure. That's what it says in my notes. So, and then the TARDIS materializes.
Right.
So, I'm not sure if him attacking crew members caused them to not be able to do what they were doing, and that caused for this sub to sink deeper and deeper. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Okay. Well, as long as I didn't miss anything.
No, that was very unclear to me of, like, what was happening to cause them to, like, sink down so low. And all I could think later when they're being brought up is, are they going to get the bends because they're being pulled up too fast?
Yeah, there's a whole thing with, like, because I sort of thought that we were going to find that this was going to be damage that we were trying to fight against and get back to the surface. And then it turns into a, like, no, there's just, like, a killer alien on the loose. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing with, like, the damage to the ship doesn't actually seem to be any issue at all until the very, very end when they're pulled back up. And it's, like, kind of an afterthought, really.
Yeah.
So I had the wrong idea as to how this was going to play out and how important it was even going to be.
Yeah, as it turns out, it's just a device to make them stuck really far underneath the water. To give that sense of claustrophobia and, you know, there's no way out. Mm-hmm. We're so deep. So it's not like we could open the hatch and get out.
Right.
We're stuck down here with this alien who could kill us. So the crash, or whatever you would call this, is really just a plot device.
And also the fact that there's water pouring in everywhere.
I never understand that about submarine stuff, because I feel like every submarine, anything that I've watched, it has something to... There's always something with water coming in, mm-hmm. and, like, I'm sorry, that makes me even less want to be on a submarine. If you're always with the danger of it crumpling in.
But it doesn't seem like that would be...
You would want that thing to be airtight.
One would think.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know anything. So if you're listening to this and you know about submarines, and you're like, no, that is definitely a thing that would happen, I would like to know what that's about. Because the hull breach, I guess, is supposed to be what would cause the water to be coming in. But also, I don't know why the hull is breached. I don't know, like, if that's, you know, what it says in the notes, then okay. But I don't... the way that it overlaps with the attack just made it seem like those two things were related. And there's no actual, like, footage of that, whatever caused the breach, like the impact. Even though we do get outside shots of the submarine a fair number of times, which I thought were quite effective, actually. I liked seeing it from the outside. It made it much creepier to me. So yeah, it was just kind of a weird thing that throughout the whole rest of the episode, there's water pouring in, and I just was like, is that how that would go? I am willing to like accept it because it's certainly atmospheric and it makes it feel like a lot more threatening. But I just thought it was an odd detail.
It always makes me think that because there's so much pressure underwater, that if water is leaking in, then one of those doors is going to blow. Right,
exactly.
Like, you didn't finish Lost. There's a submarine on Lost, and there's a whole thing with it getting, like, something blows open, and it's filling up with water, and somebody sacrifices themselves so that... Oh, that's right. He blows the thing up. That's why it starts to sink. He sets off a bomb, sacrifices himself, and then some other people die because the water is filling up and it's sinking. And all I can think is, like, yeah, it was a risk there was a bomb that was going to go off in the submarine underwater, and there's nothing you can do once this thing starts sinking. You're dead.
Yeah.
So here's this water pouring in pretty much constantly. Mm-hmm. Like, is that going to cause so much pressure that it blows open a door and then the water starts really filling up and you all drown? Like, that's what I was waiting for.
Yep, same. I don't know. I feel like they had too many factors going on this episode. And honestly, I would have been totally fine if this Martian was just a straight up, like, real, actual monster type creature. And not something that, like, we're trying to negotiate with. Mm-hmm. I think that would have been, with everything else that's going on, simpler, more to the point, and just more, like, it suits the environment better. When you've got something that's this claustrophobic and it feels like that's, like, the emphasis that they're leaning on. Like, the director wanted to really get that vibe across. I don't want there to be this whole thing about, well, we should try and communicate, because that doesn't feel like the point you're trying to make. I guess, like, we're supposed to be drawing a comparison between this and the Cold War, but it doesn't really work.
I mean, there was a direct comparison in Stepishin explaining what mutually assured destruction is.
Right.
And then the Doctor and the Martian, whose name I just lost in my brain, actually sort of having a standoff that is like, fine, if you hit that button, I'm going to blow this whole sub up.
Right.
And sacrifice all of us for the good of, you know.
But that's what I mean about it, like, not really working, because it felt like they were trying to be like, well, we should try and communicate. It's just a misunderstood, like, and then in the end, it just comes down to the Doctor being like, I will blow this motherfucker sky high. And I'm like, well, so then we just came down to the same thing in the end anyway. It felt like, why, with the attempts to chit-chat, let's just have it be fighting a monster. And also, like, the kind of code of ethics of this race, the Martian race. What is it called again?
An ice warrior.
Ice warrior. I don't think this show needs another, like, bizarre warrior, honorable, but, like, ferocious kind of creature.
When have we had that before?
We've got the Centaurans. Is that them? What's the one?
Potatoes?
The potatoes, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're definitely one. We've kind of got that with the undergroundies, lizard peoples. I just feel like that turns up a lot. That there's like, well, you know, they're a very fierce race, but they have their own code of honor and yada yada. Yawn.
Yeah,
I'm bored of it. I want something that's just a big nasty. Let's just do that.
Okay.
Like, you know, just for a treat. So I liked best when he's just stalking them. because he was most like that, like what I was craving in those moments.
I thought about you while I was watching this yesterday or today, because you don't see him a lot of the time once he's out of that armor. And there's this whole thing where the Doctor says, I've never seen one out of their armor.
And I wish I hadn't either, Doctor.
So the question of what does this thing look like, and them keeping him mostly unseen, made me think of, like, the baddie in Midnight, and how, you know, what was so scary, really, was that we never saw it. And this is like a little bit of Signs, where in Signs we see quick glimpses, mostly of, like, hands of the aliens until the end. And once we see the whole alien at the end, it's not nearly as scary.
Right.
As it was all the other times of just hearing it walking on the roof, or seeing its hands, or seeing flashes of it in the cornfield. That was way scarier when it was unseen.
Agreed. Yeah, and, like, I would be fine if we saw it at the end and it was sort of a, like, oh, look, it looks almost like a human after all, you know, or something that it was like the seeing of it hammered home a sort of metaphor of some kind. But it's just a weird CGI dude who doesn't really make much of an impression. And I would have been fine.
A lot of sharp teeth.
What's that?
A lot of sharp teeth.
Yes. He looks really, like, honestly, like a turtle without a shell. Really. You know, like, he's just got a weird face that's sort of, like, noseless, but, like, there's a point there. It's just an odd... So, it was a weird choice to me that I thought as he started to take his helmet off that we were going to get a bit of a moment. And instead it was just... Well, I never saw one, so now I got to see it. Cool. And I was like, oh, is that all? Because I feel like that would have been the moment to use some practical effects instead of the CGI.
Wouldn't it have been funny if when the Doctor finally sees it without a helmet, he was like, ugh!
Right.
Ugh. Ugh.
But the Doctor doesn't really have that reaction to almost anybody.
Yeah.
Does he? Like, now
usually, the crazier it looks, the more he's like, oh,
yeah,
you're beautiful.
Exactly.
I just think it, like, for comedy, especially in an episode that's so light on comedy, that it would have been funny for him to be like, look, oh, I get it now.
Never mind, put it back on.
Put that armor back on, I get it.
It would have been really funny if he had managed to convince this guy to take mercy, and then he was so revolted by the guy's face that the guy took offense and was like, fuck it, I'm blowing y'all up. That's really rude. I would have found that pretty amusing, actually. Also, that was probably, like, one of the more, not, like, actually violent episodes, but has the suggestion of more violence than we've seen in a lot of other episodes. When
actual blood
gets his head fucking crushed.
Yeah.
It, like, does happen off camera, but then, yeah.
Yeah, we see the blood. There's a part of me that was like, well, you deserve it.
Oh, I absolutely was fine with him dying. Don't get me wrong.
You and that face.
I mean...
I hope that Tobias Menzies is, like, one of the nicest people in the world. I really do. Because he plays such terrible people.
I just can't, like... I wish that there was a way to put my finger on the reason certain people are typecast in a certain way. Because with some people, you don't know what it is, but they just look like a douchebag. Mm-hmm. And they just get cast as a douchebag. And you're kind of sorry for them. Because they're inevitably going to just start to really be like, I guess I just look like a douchebag, which sucks. Like, that you grow to just realize that is how everybody would see you if they didn't know anything else about you, you know?
Yeah.
Ouch.
I feel like Tobias Menzies is going to, for the rest of his career, have to deal with the fact that one of his biggest roles was Blackjack Randall on Outlander.
Yeah, I've only watched part of the first season, but that's a brutal role.
It's like, just horrific, that character. Mm. And I don't think anybody can look at him the same now. Because even when he came back as Edmure, that was like he'd been on the show, then he was on Outlander, and then much later came back as Edmure, and I was like, oh no! because he's so horrible in Outlander that it's just changed how I view him. Mm-hmm. Interesting fact, he, in the first 2 seasons of The Crown, Matt Smith played Prince Philip. In the second 2 seasons, Tobias Menzies plays Prince Philip.
Oh.
Because there's a time jump. So he's an older Prince Philip. And now in the last 2 seasons, which are going to be coming out for the next one soon, I think, it's Jonathan Pryce, who played the High Sparrow on Game of Thrones, is going to be Prince Philip.
Huh. Okay.
So that's 3... very different actors playing the same role, and I find it interesting the choice, especially because I know what Prince Philip looks like, so I get the casting choices. They're very good choices. But there's also very different actors.
I can't, he's supposed to play the older version of Matt Smith?
Yeah.
That doesn't feel right to me at all. I mean...
If you look at how, because Matt Smith plays that role as a pretty young, like when Elizabeth first meets him and marries him, so in his, supposed to be in his 30s. And then Tobias Menzies, when he's Prince Philip, Olivia Colman is the queen. So that gives you sort of an idea of the age, like late 40s probably.
Okay.
They don't look anything alike, these 2 actors, but in that role, I get it. With how Philip aged, I totally get the casting.
Huh. All right.
It's just interesting because you look at them side by side and you're like, huh, they look nothing alike.
Yeah. Huh. Well, all right. So, okay, where were we? He gets his head crushed. We got a couple other guys that get, jumped. It's pretty fun. One of them literally just gets, lifted into the air and disappears, and he doesn't make a sound, which I have a very hard time believing that I wouldn't make a sound if I got... But, also, we react in different ways to being afraid, and sometimes you freeze, and I could see maybe that would happen also. But that's 4 people dead altogether, if we count the dude who is blowtorching the thing. Mm-hmm. And Tobias's character is the one that's all like, oh yeah, we're trying to not blow them up so that they won't try and blow us up, but it's just kind of eventually it's going to happen. We're just going to have to basically let our balls drop and go ahead and be the first ones to pull the trigger is sort of the vibe.
Do you know that it did almost happen?
I mean, I assume it almost happened.
And it was, I believe, somebody on a submarine stopped his crew from launching a nuclear missile because what he was looking at, what they were assuming was the U.S. had launched a missile. He was like, no, I think it's a mistake. I don't think they actually launched. I think what we're seeing is a weird glitch. And so he basically saved the world from a nuclear attack.
So, okay, let me get this straight. These people saw that the United States had launched a nuke.
They thought.
And their reaction was, fine.
Let's launch one back.
I'm just going to launch it back, and that'll really show them.
Yeah.
You idiots. You fucking buffoons.
And this one guy was like, hold on. I think this is a glitch. I don't think anything was actually launched. I think what we're getting is a weird mistake data and stopped the Russians from launching in retaliation. So if he hadn't done that, if he hadn't stopped them, they would have shot a nuclear missile.
Cool.
Which is what everybody was afraid of in the 80s, that it would happen.
What is with humanity?
I don't know.
I mean, you can't kill us or we'll kill you back and probably ourselves too as we kill you for revenge on our own self. Like, good job, you fucking idiots.
Like, that guy should be like, he should have gotten a Nobel Peace Prize. Like, he should be the most famous person in history.
I can't, like, and I would like it if whoever was about to just launch that shit basically got sent home without pay and was shamed for the rest of their lives and shunned by the community. Anyway, okay, so gradually it becomes clear. Well, there's this whole thing with Clara talking to what's his face?
Skaldak.
No, the...
Oh, to the professor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cute in that I liked their chemistry together, and I thought it was, like, fun.
I thought that he was going to die, and I was like, oh, man.
I did, too, for sure.
Like, he's so nice, and they've got such a cute little rapport, and now he's going to die? It sucks.
But I will say, I don't... Like, when I say that this would have been better if the doctor weren't here, I really don't understand what Clara's doing here. Like, she doesn't bring anything to this episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I kind of feel like she doesn't need to. What could she bring to this episode? In this situation, she can't bring anything. I
want the writers to create situations in which the companion matters. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay.
You know, I just want, like, especially when you have this whole mystery girl thing that they keep trying to do, I want her to feel like there's, like, any agency there at all. And for her to just be wrapped up in this and sidelined the way that she is. I mean, like you say, there's nothing that she can do, but I want them to have given her something. I want her to, like, you know, we know that she has this, like, computer knowledge now, and that maybe that is brought up somehow. I don't know.
I guess I feel differently because sometimes I think that they try too hard on this show to make the companion instrumental in the, like, result of the episode. There were a lot of times where Amy, you know, saved the day because she talked the doctor down or she had some different view on it and changed his mind, or, you know, Rose was special, and or Martha did this thing, or Donna did this thing, and sometimes I feel like if it were me in this situation, I would kind of feel like, what am I supposed to... I can't do anything. This is so foreign to me. I'm just going to stay out of the way. Okay. And I kind of like that in this episode, Clara is like, yeah, I'm staying out of the way. Like, you're telling me not to wander off. Okay, I will not wander off. This is a scary situation. We could die. We're many leagues under the sea. I'm not going to fuck anything up. I'm just going to stay back and be useful that way by not trying to insert myself into a situation that I know nothing about. I don't know. I guess I just kind of, like, I've been waiting for a companion that isn't, like, so special in so many ways that she's the one who saves the day.
I don't need her to save the day. I would just like her to be somehow, like, I guess that what I'm saying really when I step back is that I want all the episodes to be moving towards solving the mystery of who she is. And I guess we just don't... That's not really how the show tends to work.
Often, it's not. I mean, mostly with Stephen Moffat, it does. This seems, from what I've read, this is the one episode that doesn't have, like, a Clara aspect of, like, trying to solve the mystery of Clara. This one's sort of a stand alone in that respect.
Okay. Because, yeah, I mean, that was the thing in other seasons, which was I would get frustrated that the what I thought of as the main plot didn't really move forward. And then I'd have to sort of be like, maybe that's not the main plot. maybe that's why it doesn't move forward, is because that's not really the focus, and I just need to sort of, like, let it go. And
like the crack in time that's following Amy around?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I think there was one episode that season, too, that didn't mention the crack in time.
And that's also part of the thing with, like, them airing the episodes out of order. I think that's, like, overall, I'm just kind of spoiled, I think, in terms of how prestige television is always, like, there's an overarching plot that everything is always moving toward. And so I've sort of come to expect that. And when things don't seem to have any, they're more meandering, and it's just like Monster of the Week.
Right.
I get frustrated because it feels like they set up a thing that I expected to be more of a continuing thing.
You want forward momentum in every episode.
Yeah, I thought, like, and I think I get confused by the, like, mixed message of wanting to set up this greater mystery, but also wanting to go back to the Monster of the Week and not have that greater mystery be the focal point. And it's not even like it's a bad thing. It's just that I get it in my head that's how that's going to go. And then, like, an episode like this comes along where she doesn't really do very much at all the whole episode. And I'm just like, but who is she? Isn't that what this is all supposed to be about? What are we doing? So, yeah, I think that I just need to sort of, like, keep in mind that this is much more like Buffy-esque, where they'll be, like, a big bad, but they just don't really have to be in every episode. That's, like, something that we get reminded is still there every now and then. And otherwise, it's not the way I think of it with a lot of modern shows, where it's much more focused in that way.
Can you imagine if this show had 22 episodes the way that Buffy did? Because I think, because Buffy was a traditional American series where it had 22 episodes a season, they had to have some just Monster of the Week episodes in there so that they could draw out the big bad to the finale episode.
Right.
But if Buffy was 13 episodes, we probably wouldn't have had any of those fillers.
So how many episodes are there per season usually with this show?
I think it's 13.
Okay. Yeah, damn. No show needs to be 20-something episodes long per season.
And most shows aren't anymore. Only like traditional network shows are still like 22 episodes, and even a lot of those have shortened.
Yeah.
Like the CW, I think almost all of their shows now are only 13 to 15.
Man.
Supernatural is still 22 episodes a season, but that's like, you know, they're an old school show that has just been on for 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah, Supernatural is just doesn't even count anymore in terms of conversations about television, because it's just such a fucking, like, maniac.
Oh, it's so stupidly fun. I mean, honestly, it is really, what a fun show. I love it. But it's ending. It's in its final season.
Is it finally?
Yeah, they were actually filming their final episode when they had to shut down for COVID.
Oh, that's rude.
And so they spent like 5 or 6 months just sort of in a holding pattern, and they recently were able to go back and finish.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
So they're done now.
Because that was something that with Buffy I was able to, like, really just sit back and enjoy. More because I think when it's not a mystery, when it's just basically like, oh, there's a bad guy out there, you sort of are like, all right, well, I just have to sort of wait until things come to a head and they're forced to face off. Mm-hmm. And when it's a mystery, the writers are, like, more the ones that I think of as responsible for, like, releasing information about the mystery as we go along.
Yeah.
Whereas in the case of, like, going up against, the master, that feels like, well, naturally, that's going to happen at the finale.
Right.
But I don't really know enough about Clara to know what is going to be told when. Because I don't know if there is some, like, big bad enemy associated with her that we're going to need to face off with. So I could be getting information at any time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think that's just, like... I just don't... I feel a little bit adrift in that way.
I wonder if this episode... Because this was written by Mark Gatiss. If he had, like, conceptualized this episode regardless of what companion there was at the time. Like, he just had a story he wanted to tell. I don't know.
But anyway...
Because this feels like a story that could be in any season of Doctor Who, with any companion.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, eventually she's in the middle of, like, talking to him, and all of a sudden these clawed hands come down. They come down either side of her head at first, and then they come down around his head after he, like, stands up for her and, like, defends her and shoots at the creature. Mm-hmm. Even though it doesn't have armor on, I guess it's like skin is just tough enough that it doesn't matter, because apparently that does nothing.
I was concerned that he was shooting a gun right at Clara's face, basically.
I mean, shooting a gun inside of a submarine, just in general, doesn't seem like a great practice.
Yeah, no, not a good idea.
But yeah, so...
They're running around with, like, rifles and shit. Like, what are you guys doing?
Right? Look. You said it, I didn't. So yeah, this is when Skaldek's like, the doctor comes running up and is like, you don't have to do this, and Skaldek says, you attacked me, and I'm like, you are just such a liar. Martian law decrees that the people of this planet are forfeit. You are just such a liar. And Martian law. Who gives a fuck about Martian law? I'm going to go fly over to Russia and be like, it's illegal to do that in the United States. Like, who cares? You're not on your home turf anymore. Get the fuck out of here, idiot. So, eventually, he's like, haha, I'm going to set off the nukes and then blow this Earth to Kingdom Come and fuck all y'all because you done mess with the wrong one. And I have nothing left to lose, so y'all are dead now. And the doctor... It's
really selfish.
Very. Like, for no good reason. And it's just such a childish response, too. Like, this guy's supposed to be some great warrior. And he's like, well, y'all are really mean to me, so I'm pretty much going to commit genocide.
Aw, Chris Pratt. Stop it. It's okay.
Commentary. But yeah, so it's like, just this reaction.
Actually, I'm sorry. I have to apologize to Chris Pratt, because he would not commit genocide because people are mean to him. That's Donald Trump.
That's true. Ugh.
Chris Pratt's just going to cry about it on the internet.
He's just going to cry and go run to his mom and be like, Mom, tell them to stop. And then his mom's going to post on Instagram and be like, you guys are so mean to my kid. So, yeah, this dude, finally the doctor... like, gets him to remove his helmet. He does the whole which one of us shall blink first thing. And I was like, do you blink even, though? What's up with your eyes? And this is when Clara chimes in. Why did you stop back there in the dark? Why did you show compassion for him when I told you to not kill this man? And... she's like, billions will die. Remember that last battle, your daughter, and appeals to his humanity. To which I'm like, that just doesn't work a lot of the time. Just FYI, guys. Appealing to people's humanity really predicates that they have some. Mm-hmm. But eventually they are interrupted by the arrival of his brothers, as he calls them. Because he thought
the doctor did try to tell him
he did.
That they were still out there.
And this dude just didn't want to hear it, which I'm saying, the fact that he just didn't want to listen to the doctor, and that he definitely killed a guy right away, and then is trying to act like he didn't do that shit. I am not interested in cooperating. I'm not. It's fine.
He's like a guy who doesn't get a response back from a girl for the text that he sent right away, and so he's like, fuck you, bitch, you're ugly anyway.
Yep. Ugh. Guys, you don't even... If you're a woman, you know. It is bonkers. That, I think, really should be the test women put men through right out of the gate with online dating, is see how a person reacts when they are left on red. Mm-hmm. And let that determine. If they flip the fuck out, there you saved yourself a bunch of trouble. Done. If they're very, very salty about it, maybe that's fair. Maybe not. You push it a little more and see. And if they're just like, hey, haven't heard from you. What's going on? Then you're like, all right, you're a reasonable human being. Let's continue to talk.
It's like these guys never, and I don't know if girls are like this too, but before Jason, when I was dating more often, like, I would send a text to somebody and they would play that fucking 2 days thing. Mm-hmm. That fucking game that I hate. Like, I can't respond right away. I'm going to wait a couple days.
Right.
I was dating this guy in Rhode Island. He was hot as fuck, and he was a tattoo artist. Oh my god, he was like one of the hottest guys I've ever seen. And he fucking went out of town and didn't respond to me, like, before he left. Was gone for like 5 or 6 days, and then was home for over a week before he texted me or called me, and couldn't understand why. I was like, oh yeah, I thought we were done. Like, I'm done.
Oh my god.
Like, you ghosted, and I made other plans, and I'm probably going to be moving. And he's like, because I didn't call you, I was like, I'm not moving because you didn't call me. I was already thinking about it, but this kind of helped the decision move along, because obviously this isn't anything to you. You disappeared for like 14 days. Right.
Yeah, that's one of those things that it's just like, I mean, obviously I'm no consideration to you at all. So why am I, like, that's just...
Yeah, his feelings were hurt because I was like, yeah, I made a decision for my life. It didn't include you, because obviously you made decisions for yours that didn't include me.
Exactly.
So I just figured we were done. He's like, you thought we were done just because I didn't call you? I was like, for 2 weeks? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
2 weeks? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like, I don't care how hot you are. Fuck off.
That is... No sane person would respond any differently than you did. He must have been just assuming that he had such, like, an upper hand that you would just be glad to have him back, and I just want to know why he thought that. Had he been able to pull this shit before?
I don't know. He was seriously so hot, but actually really boring.
It's a shame. You ever dated a guy who was extremely hot, but then super terrible in bed?
Yes.
That's tragic. Tragic. Yeah. So sad. Anyway, so they pull him out of here, but he like leaves the button pushed or whatever it is for like what is it that he does? They're like bound to him somehow. The missiles, right? Because the doctor's basically like, we're not out of the woods yet after he leaves. And realizes that he still has to get in contact with Skaldek. Even though Skaldek is no longer on the ship. And is like still saying, I will destroy us if I have to.
Yeah, he says... This says, the doctor checks the console, which is still armed. 1 pulse from the Martian ship could launch the missiles. He holds up the sonic screwdriver, wincing and repeating that he'll destroy them if he must. Clara starts singing Hungry Like the Wolf, and then the missiles disarm. So yeah, he still could have deployed those missiles from the Martian ship.
Okay. Yeah, her suddenly singing I'm Hungry Like the Wolf, I was like, all right, guys, everybody calm down. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that that's your instinct in that moment.
Well, she got that from the professor.
No, I know, but it doesn't work. It's like, just, you're thinking that you might explode in a second. That's, you sing to yourself when you've been listening to a podcast about scary stories, and you're walking down your hall and you think you see something standing in the corner. And you're like, all right, now I'm about to sing to myself because I have to get to the bathroom and I need to make myself feel better. You don't sing to yourself when you think you might be the victim of a nuclear blast in about a second. That's not the kind of thing that's for.
I don't think I sing to myself in scary situations so much as I cry a lot.
I released the second Unspookled episode a couple days ago, and I freaked myself out, man, on this one. Like, because I was assembling, like, the sound effects, and the opening of it is real spooky. And I listened to it to just, like, overall make sure everything was where it was supposed to be. And by the end of it, I was like, oh, God, I gotta go out in the sun or something. Like, that freaked me out.
Yeah, it popped up on my podcast app last night, and I read, like, your description of it, where you're like, don't listen to this alone, or don't listen to this before bed, or something. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Noted. I will not. I'll listen to it in the daytime.
There was a little, like, short story at the very beginning, and the, like, opening line for it was, Lauren was standing at the sink washing dishes. And I got a comment in the Mighty Network from a Lauren who said, okay, so I was listening to this while standing at my sink washing dishes, and I heard that line and just ripped my earbud out and just went, nope, and pressed pause. And I am not listening to that shit for a little while, because that freaked me the fuck out. It's like, yeah, that's fair. Enough to make you feel like you're being narrated. It's a Truman Show.
Ugh, God.
So he gets him to stop, and the missiles go back, and Clara hugs the doctor, who seems real weird about the fact that she's hugging him. Like, he's looking around like he's never experienced a hug, and I'm like, you guys almost died. I know you're used to that, but she's not, dude. Yeah, she's hugging you. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And then we have them all going up to the top of the sub out in the snow. And the doctor confessing that he messed with something with the, like, settings on the TARDIS, which caused it to auto, like, relocate when it was in danger.
Right. They're called the HADs. I can't remember what that stands for, but I guess this was something that used to be used on the TARDIS in older seasons.
Ah, okay.
And it basically, if the TARDIS thinks that it's in danger of, like, destruction, it will take itself away. Which is not helpful. No. It shouldn't do that if you're not on it. That should be part of the failsafe. Yeah. Like, I would think. Because here, it ends up on the South Pole. They're at the North Pole.
And can he not call it?
I don't have an answer for that. I actually wondered that. Like, can he summon it?
I really just our experts to tell me. I don't know why, because we haven't...
He asks them for a ride. Like, they're not going to circumnavigate the globe in their submarine to drop you off at the South Pole. You better figure out money and get a plane ticket somewhere.
I just, like, the TARDIS always shows up where they need it so easily. Yeah. That to suddenly introduce this whole thing where it's like, oh, it's in the wrong place and we need to get to it. I'm like, since when? That's never been an issue, ever. Why are we pretending that's something we need to worry about now? Just the idea that you gotta figure out where it is. And how does he know where it is?
I don't know. Maybe his Sonic tells him.
The screwdriver?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. Because he just says, like, it's at the pole. And she's like, okay. And he's like, the South Pole. Womp, womp. Womp, womp.
So.
And then they have, like, a good laugh, which he makes fun of, because Davos laughs at him.
Rightfully.
Right.
Because he asks for a ride.
Davos really could have just been like, hey, this is your stop? Bye.
Yeah, you guys just showed up. It's not my fucking responsibility to worry about whether you're going to be able to survive if we drop you on this glacier. Thanks for coming.
Have fun with those polar bears. Clara thinks they're cuddly.
So yeah, that's the end of the episode. And that was fine. I really want more just like bad guys. But that's just my personal preference. It's also, Halloween times right now.
Yeah.
So I might just be jonesing for a little spookiness.
Sure.
In that respect.
This was the first televised story to feature the Ice Warriors since 1974.
Wow.
And the first to not be written by their creator. Clara's the only female character in this story. The last time that occurred was the Fourth Doctor, a serial episode called The Power of Kroll, where the Doctor's companion Romana was the only female character in the episode.
I mean, Clara's the only female character in this episode. That's
the point.
Oh, okay.
This is the first time that it's happened since the Fourth Doctor.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Which is a long time.
Yeah, that is actually. That is, what'd you say? 1970 what?
Well, the last time the Ice Warriors were seen was in 1974, but the last time there was an episode that only had one female character. It doesn't say the year, it just says it was in a Fourth Doctor episode. And I believe the Fourth Doctor was sometime in the 70s.
Okay.
He's the one with the scarf.
Ah, yes. Okay.
The long, long scarf. There's something in here about the size of the items that the Doctor takes out of his pockets, and that shows that the pockets are bigger on the inside, much like the TARDIS. I didn't really notice that, but some of the items that were taken out of his pockets include a doll, a caramel apple, and yarn.
I saw the Barbie, which was real creepy.
Yeah. It made me think of Mary Poppins in that respect, but I wasn't really paying attention to notice that it's like all these things were coming out of his pockets. I don't know why I didn't even really notice that.
Yeah, I noticed it because he grabs the doll and it's like, oh, there it is, and kisses it later when he gets it back. And I was like, sir, I'm going to need you to not weirdly kiss the Barbie in front of everybody. You're not really doing a whole lot for your credibility here.
Do Tobias Menzies and Liam Cunningham have scenes in Game of Thrones together? Are they both in that final horrible council where Sansa tells her uncle to sit down? Is Davos in that scene?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't remember, because I know he's not still with Jon, though he should be.
What a disaster that show is. I don't want to talk about it anymore, Jamie.
I love Sir Davos so much.
Yeah, and somebody shared a thing about how they wanted him to have a crush on Miss Sandy.
Ew, yeah, I shared
that. A third
that.
of his
Gross.
age.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that he was like, no, guys.
Yeah.
It's not charming, writers. I know you think that's cute. It's not cute. Ugh.
There was something that came out this week about Joe Manganiello, who was on True Blood. He has a Dungeons and Dragons sort of group.
Right.
He loves Dungeons and Dragons. So he does this, he's got this ongoing game with some fairly famous people. And there was a picture linking to this article or this video that was on Variety. And in the picture was one of the Game of Thrones showrunners. And I commented, why the fuck is D.B. Weiss there? We all know he doesn't like magic. We've seen Game of Thrones. And then I paused and was like, oh, the dragons. He's there for the dragons, of course.
Not here for the dungeons. He's not.
No, he heard dragons and was like, ooh, can I play?
Gah.
I fucking hate that guy.
Guys, we're just both a little bit salty this episode. It's all right. So anyway, yeah, I just mentioned that the second Unspooked is up. There'll be one more this season. And Miles and I are, 3 episodes into the Midnight Sun coverage?
Miles wants to kill himself, yeah?
Miles is so mad. It's hilarious. We have very different perspectives on Midnight Sun. I enjoyed it more than him because he hates Edward so much. And I hate Edward, but I find Bella incredibly boring. So I'd rather be in the head of a person that I hate than somebody I just don't relate to and think is an idiot. So we had some discussions about that. And so far, it has just been really fun. And he's working on something called Miles Fixes Twilight. Basically a fanfic.
Oh my God.
In which Bella is an adrenaline junkie. And instead of just being incredibly clumsy. So Edward's concern for her is more well-founded. And it also makes some of the things that happen in the second book make more sense. Because...
What, like her jumping off a cliff?
Yeah, she just suddenly decides to become an adrenaline junkie because she has a mental break that causes her to see her boyfriend. Oh, what are these books even, though? But anyway, yeah, if you would like to listen to those, you can become a $5 patron. Patreon.com/unspoiled. $5, you get access to all the current shows. If you are $10, you get a postcard every month. If you are $20, you get a twice-a-month show with me and Rashawn live on camera. And we're going to be doing a Halloween party. And I think that's the top. Yeah, if you do like higher tiers, you can get a plug on a show for a project you're doing, which is what gets plugged ahead of this episode, is our sponsor for War for the Tower podcast, which you should check out and let them know that we sent you because that supports both of us. But yeah, so check it out, patreon.com/unspoiled. And if you'd like to listen to a sample Unspookled episode, you can go to unspoiledpodcast.com and it will be on the front page. If you listen to this episode after Halloween 2020, it will no longer be on the front page. So good luck finding that. I don't know where it'll be by then, but it won't be there. And that's it. Is there anything else you want to add, ma'am?
Krista and I are still doing the Vampire Diaries. It's super fun, and I was validated because I told her at the very beginning that she would grow to like Damon and find him very hot, and I got a text from her the other day saying that she would not need to be sired to him to find him hot. And I shared it in the Vampire Diaries group because I needed to gloat.
Damon is one of the hottest men. Well, Ian Somerhalder is one of the hottest men to ever live. And I will just say that until the day I die. It is, any time that I just hear about a man who is supposed to be supernaturally hot, he is the first person I think of. Mm-hmm. That's just all there is to that, so. Yeah,
he's just so fucking beautiful, and he's so sexy on this show, and I've just been waiting for her to finally be like, yeah, okay, he can get it.
Yep.
And she finally did, so, yeah. Apparently he's very nice. He used to be a regular at the bar that my friend was a bartender at, and she would send me texts about how Boone was in her bar, and she's like, he's just so sweet.
I just couldn't function. Boone walks into my bar, and I break 3 glasses and then go back and hyperventilate in the walk-in. Forget it. Like, yeah, no, not. I don't lose my cool around dudes in general. I never have been somebody who has struggled with that, but there is a level of hotness that I just brain scramble.
Yeah, you know? He's otherworldly. That's also how I feel about Jensen Ackles from Supernatural.
Which one's that? Is that the younger, taller, shorter?
It's Dean, the technically shorter. The guy is 6'2". He's not a short man.
But the other one is 6'5".
He's a giant. Yeah, he's like 6'5", 6'6".
Jesus Christ.
He's not the one that was on Gilmore Girls. He's the other one. And he's absolutely perfect. And when I see him, he recently did the Dazed and Confused. They did a table read of the full cast, but he played one of the characters because that actor wasn't available.
Okay.
And there was a shot of, he was talking about something, and Adrienne Palicki from Friday Night Lights also, like, filled in for a role. And she just, like, had her head on her hands, and Jason was like, wow, she is smitten. And I was like, I mean, do you have eyes? Everyone has eyes. Like, Jensen Ackles is unreal. He's so hot. That's how I feel about him. Like, I don't ever want to meet him because I would be like, I'm just dead. I'll just die.
Yeah, there's very few celebrities that I feel like I genuinely would be incoherent if I met them. But Ian Somerhalder, I mean,
yeah.
Forget it. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near him. I would see him and run away. That's how I would somebody's super hot or super, like, important to you when you're afraid to interact with them in that sort of way. Like, it's sort of like Troy on Community saying that he doesn't want to actually meet LeVar Burton because you can't let down a picture. You can't disappoint a picture.
Literally how I reacted when Robert Downey Jr. was in My Coffee Bean. I ran to the back.
Yep.
And I was like, I can't.
Anyway, so now you guys all know how we feel about hot guys. So thank you all for listening. We love you, and we will see you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.